The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
It's the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. We got plumbers, we got electricians, we got mouse ears. That's right. Yours truly in the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. I am heading to Orlando on vacation with my wife and kids. We pack up, leave on a jet plane, and won't think about hardly anything wrestling for the next 5 or 6 days. Yes, I'll be sweating in Orlando in August with Epcot Center and Space Mountain and having breakfast with Cinderella and bibbidi-bobbidi-boo and you know, maybe trying to buy a 101 Dalmatians coat or something. They probably don't sell it. I do have a Duckburg University shirt I am set to wear, probably not Disney issue. I also turned 40 this week, so yes, my 30th birthday I spent on a safari in South Africa. Actually, let me back that up real quick. My 29th birthday I spent in West Lafayette, Indiana at a Steak and Shake, moving to Minnesota. My 30th birthday, I spent on a safari in South Africa. My 37th birthday, I spent at the Olympics in Rio. My 38th birthday, I spent at the World Championships in Paris. My 40th birthday, I will spend with my beautiful wife and daughters at Disney. You know what I'm not going to be thinking about a whole lot? I mean, I'm going to be thinking about it a whole lot, but I'm not going to be in a position to talk about it a whole lot. Yianni-Zain and Zane Rutherford. Yes, that announcement came August 15th, match 2, thrown out. We're going to re-wrestle it, and we could see potentially 2 more matches with Yianni-Zain and Zane Rutherford for the world team spot at 65 kilos. What's my opinion on the matter? I honestly don't care. And when I say I don't care, I don't, not like I don't care about what the situation's like, but as far as who wins or who loses or whose side I'm on or which angle I'm taking or which bad take I'm taking, which bad take I'm not taking, which good take. It all depends on which side of the fence you're sitting on. Nobody from Penn State thinks this is a good decision. Just like nobody from Cornell thinks it's a bad decision. You're going to have biases on this. And that's why I'm pretty much saying I don't really like the fact that it went this way. I thought that should have been taken care of on the mat. And my buddy Nate Shy also sends me the same text. He agrees with me there. Actually, I agree with him. That's his take. I'm not going to say he kind of speaking my language here. I don't have any pros formulated about this Yianni-Zain situation. You know, the fans win on one side because you get to see this potentially 2 more times. The fans lose if you're, Penn State fans, because you thought your guy's already gone through the process the way you thought it was supposed to be. And a lot of people agree with that. But you know what? I don't want to nitpick and get into the minutia of what's this, what's that, what I think. Again, I think it's a sticky situation. Both Yianni and Zane are tremendous athletes that will represent our country, whichever one wins, and they will do it to the best of their ability, and they will do it with class. They will do it with dignity. Let's also remember this is not the fault of either athlete here. They did what they were supposed to do, and they are just kind of caught in the crossfire here with 2 coaches who, 1, Cale went to bat for his guy by throwing the brick. 2, Rob Cole went to the bat for his guy by filing a protest. That's where we're at. We're fans as caught in the crossfire. Us media were caught in the crossfire. Athletes are caught in the crossfire. You know what? The decision's been made. We got to deal with it. That's probably what a lot of people thought when Final X was coming off the mat there in New Jersey. But that's all I'm going to talk about right now because I got vacation, man. I wasn't even planning on talking about this. I had today's topic all set out, mapped out. I was doing a question of the week. Last week's pro wrestling content and the pro wrestling question of the week went over like gangbusters. I'm super proud with that. So here's what I basically have in mind today. By the way, this is the Short Time Wrestling Podcast, and we're 4 minutes into this thing, and you don't even know who I'm Jason Bryant. I've got many leather-bound books. I do things in wrestling that are somewhat important, but this show is the important thing right now. It is the Short Time Wrestling Podcast, the second longest-running podcast in the sport of wrestling. The oldest show is a show called Mat Slammers by a couple guys in Iowa that started in 2006. They got a pretty good jump on me. Short Time started in 2013. I've been podcasting for 10 years. I've been announcing for over 20. Yeah. Anyway, the topic today is about the All-Star Classic. While I wasn't at the NWCA convention, I did get word that there were some ideas being tossed around about the NWCA All-Star Classic and the future of the event. This prompted me to ask you what your favorite All-Star Classic match of all time was. But before we get to those answers, let's give you a little backstory on the event. The East-West All-Star Classic first started in 1967 and was held after the season in Stillwater, Oklahoma. The event continued to be an East-West All-Star duel through 1987 when the team scoring component was taken out of the event. In 1973, the event moved to an in-season event taking place in late January or early February until 2004. The NWCA opted to put the event in November to avoid matchups being dumped amidst concern for seed protection and coaches citing, air quotes, injury, close air quotes, concerns so close to the postseason. You can get injured in practice just as well as you could a match, so don't give me that hullabaloo. The late November date went for 8 seasons before the NWCA moved the event to the opening weekend of the college wrestling season in order to make it a kickoff weekend. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I liked it. One of the most recent complaints coming from fans is that the event hasn't really been an all-star event because there were so few number 1s and number 2 wrestlers. Statistically, only one duel in recent memory, and that was Ohio State-Penn State in 2017-2018, featured as many All-Americans and top-ranked wrestlers as the All-Star Classic typically does. Denver in 2018-2019 was a notable exception as the card was split between men and women. This will be the 54th edition of the NWCA All-Star Classic. No, I do not know where this thing is yet. And before I get to your responses on the favorite All-Star Classic matches of all time, let's go back to Stillwater, Oklahoma, and then Gallagher Arena, because they didn't add the IBA until later. 1967. Of the 11 weight classes, yes, there were 11 weight classes, 8 individual NCAA champions, 21 of the 22 wrestlers were All-Americans. In addition to the 8 champions, we had 3 runners-up, 3 thirds, 2 fourths, 3 fifths, and 2 sixth-place finishers. In that era, we only placed the top 6, and there were 11 weight classes. No, the event did not have 11 weight classes because it added 11 weight classes. There was a run that the NCAA had 11 weight classes in college wrestling. Man, that would be cool to do again, wouldn't it? How many 1s and 2 rematches did we have? Because this was after the season, right? None. Not a single match was a national finals rematch. But we did have a number of weights that shifted. So, without further ado, this is your history lesson about the 1967 NWCA All-Star Classic and some of the funky things that went along with it. At 115 pounds, third place Glenn McMinn of Arizona State beat runner-up Jim Anderson of Minnesota 3-2. The two did not meet during the tournament, with McMinn falling in the semifinals to eventual champion Rick Sanders of Portland State. Sanders pinned McMinn in the quarters and then beat Anderson 19-2 in the pre-technical fall era in the finals. 115-pound champion Rick Sanders went up to 123. I got to stop for a second. I cannot believe I'm actually doing a podcast where I'm mentioning Rick Sanders' name. It's freaking cool. Anyway, Rick Sanders went up to 123, where he tied Michigan's Bob Fehrs, the runner-up at 123, 2-2. Fehrs had just finished second for the 3rd consecutive year, losing to Lehigh's Mike Caruso in the finals. No. Not the second for the 3rd year in a row, period. It was the second for the 3rd year in a row, all to Caruso. At 130 pounds, it was Caruso, the aforementioned champion at 123, who went up to defeat Colorado's Jim Hanson 6-3. Hanson was 4th at 130, having fallen to Michigan State's Don Behm 9-5 in the semifinals. Hanson fell to Caruso's teammate, Joe Peritore, 11-5 in the consolation final. So is that what you get? You lose to the 130-pounder, so you feed him the 123-pound champ? At 137 pounds, Don Behm, who had finished second at 130, fell to Oklahoma State's Gene Davis, who was third at 137 just a few weeks earlier. Davis fell in the semifinals 1-1-0-0 in a referee's decision to get another Portland State wrestler to Masaru Yatabe. Yatabe would then lose to Michigan State's Dale Anderson in the finals. At 145 pounds, Oklahoma State's Jim Rogers finished 4th at the weight and got the nod against 137-pound All-American Don New of Cornell. New was 5th, having lost to Yatabe on the top side and Gene Davis in the consolation semis. Rogers had lost in the opening round to Mike Gluck of Wisconsin, the eventual finalist. Back in those days, we had something that's pretty similar to that UWW repechage that everybody hates so much. Seriously, yeah, you lost to the finalists. That's how you get pulled back in. The only difference then compared to now, at least, of course, other than the style, is there's no double bronze. So back in 1967, it proved that, yes, even us Americans had systems that were completely meh at times. Anyway, Rogers won that match 8-5. At 152 pounds, UCLA's Lee Erler, who was third at 160, came down and defeated NCAA champion Jim Kamen of Michigan 8-7. Erler was one of 3 wrestlers who came down to new weights in the event. Kamen had defeated Oklahoma's Wayne Wells 6-5 in the 1967 finals, while Erler was bested by Vic Marcucci of Iowa State 10-8 in the semifinals. Marcucci would beat Cleo McGlory of Oklahoma in the finals. At 160 pounds, Joe Domko of Southern Illinois, known then as SIU Carbondale, knocked off Marcucci 3-2. Domko was a 3-time qualifier and came into the 1967 NCAA tournament as the number 5 seed. He was pinned in the opening round by Adams State's Don Apodaca. Apodaca was then beaten by number 4 seed Jeff Smith of Oregon State, eliminating Domko. Domko was the only non-All-American in the meet, and he beats a national champion. Granted, it was at a different weight. At 167 pounds, George Radman of Michigan State, a Granby High School alum from Virginia, yes, there is the Virginia throw-in, he beat Washington State's Fred Fairbanks in a matchup of wrestlers who met actually at their postseason weights. Radman won the national championship, beating Mike Gallego of Fresno State in the finals. Gallego was the college division champion, and he put Fairbanks into the consolation bracket in the second round with a 7-1 decision. At 177 pounds, this one's a little funky. Northern Iowa's Don Parker came down from 191 and topped Moravian's Dave Mucka 5-3. Porter was 6th, falling to Syracuse's Tom Schlendorf in the quarterfinals. Well, let's stop for a second. Coming down isn't exactly accurate. Parker wrestled at the university division at 191 pounds after winning the college division earlier at 177 pounds, where Mucka was 4th. So Parker went up and placed 6th. Mucka stayed at 177 for the university division, where he too would finish 6th. At 191 pounds, Syracuse national champion, the aforementioned Schlendorf, beat Iowa State's Don Buzzard in the finals 5-0. Schlendorf would face off with 177-pound national champion and future world champion Fred Fozzard of Oklahoma State. Schlendorf would prevail 5-3 in the only head-to-head matchup of NCAA champions. Fans waited with anticipation to talk about the results 14 days later when the results arrived. First-class male amateur wrestling news. Yeah, what if wrestling message boards actually existed in that era? Man, the stories our predecessors would be able to tell us. Although Vic Marcucci actually still posts on themat.com. At Unlimited, Dave Porter of Michigan got a little bit of redemption as he pinned NCAA champion and future Pro Football Hall of Famer Curly Culp of Arizona State at 338. Porter was the top seed in the NCAA tournament and the returning champion. Would-be message boards would have melted down after he was upset 5-4 by NAIA champion Nick Carollo of Adams State in the quarterfinals. Porter fought back after Carollo made the finals, and Culp dispatched him in just under a minute. So there's your look back at the first NWCA East-West All-Star Classic. So now to your comments. What was your favorite All-Star Classic match of all time? Kevin Claunch, a patron at Claunchinator and co-host of the Blood Round Wrestling podcast, says, Dean Heil, Cody Brewer was underrated. Will Johnson at Will_J_157 agrees with the GIF, whatever the hell you want to call it, of Daryl from The Office, or it was one of the guy. Yeah, I seen it. Whatever. Brad Bowles, also a patron at BBB4UT. Maybe it was not the best match, but the build-up for Dake Taylor was intense. Has there been a more anticipated All-Star Classic match? The answer, no, there hasn't. Mike Chick, via the Matt Talk Online Facebook group, he is also a contributor to the Matt Talk Podcast Network, says that I've probably seen way more than any of us, but 2012 Dake Taylor definitely stands out for me. Hard to disagree there. Now we've got several in agreement here. Jim Brown, who is, yes, that Jim Brown. Mark Ironside over Kerry Kolat. Carver, great comeback. 2 of the all-time greats. Jeff Mayer, Ironside over Jeremy Ensrud, 1998 at 134. That was 18-7. I think that was up in Buffalo. Edward Gallo, MMA from MMA Sucker and Bloody Elbow. Recency bias, but I'll go with Heil Brewer from 2015. Vintage Brewer and a great pace from Heil, pretty rare. Lars Underbaki, Ironside versus Kolat for sure. Fitting for an Iowa guy. Coach K, Ironside versus Kolat, the prototypical Iowa style versus one of the most skilled and talented wrestlers of all time. Ian at Rusty Griswold, 34. It can't be any match that isn't this one. Kolat got carvered and Ironside carvered people in every gym. Might be the best college match ever. McElravy v. Abbas was the only one that competes in my eyes, and that wasn't the All-Star Classic. Matter of fact, that was actually a topic on the Matt Boss podcast by Chad Dennis the other day. He had Jerry Abbas on the show. Jeff Johnson at Coach Jeff 01. Kolat Ironside, next topic. Hard to argue there. Marcos Aranda at Marcos Aranda 17, also patron of the Matt Talk Podcast Network, Simply says Colat Ironside. Now, that's the run of the Colat Ironside feedback we've got. But I need to interject a story here. So back when Kyle Klingman and I were doing Wrestling 411, toward the end of that era, we were both in Fargo, and I'm at the Bison Turf, which should come as a surprise to absolutely no one. Kerry Colat comes up to me and goes, "Hey, Jay, you know my career pretty well." I said, "Yeah, I'd say so." He goes, "What was I most known for in college?" And I looked at him and I was like, thought about it for a second, and I go, "Transferring?" And, obviously that was kind of a joke, and he kind of laughed about it a little bit, and he goes, I said, "Your buddy Klingman says, I was known for not having a gas tank, and I tell you what, I have one bad match at the All-Star Classic, and all of a sudden I'm known for not having a gas tank." So it's still to this thing that, here it is 20-some, almost 30 years later, that people are still, geez, it's about, let's see, what year is that? It was 96, so that was... No, that wasn't 30 years. That was 23 years. I can't even say that. So, yeah, 96. Yeah, so 23, 24 years later, or whatever it was. Math. Bad. So, yeah, that's, people still bring that up, and they think Kerry was out of shape. I mean, the guy transferred to Lock Haven and hadn't even spent a whole lot of time in the lineup at that point. Anyway, moving on. 34 Wrestle at 34 Wrestle. That's actually Pat Kelly. He's got another podcast out in Kansas. 1983. Mark Rigatuso versus Tab Thacker. Rigatuso weighed just over 200 pounds. Thacker over 400. Rigatuso is a two-time D2 champion and a two-time Division I All-American, won 5-3. Yeah, Tab Thacker, a.k.a. Finch from Wildcats, a.k.a. House from the Police Academy series. Gigantic. Jamie Canaday at T Waterway Duels. 89 and 91 in Philly featured some great matches. Check out the results. Lots of PA power both years. Brands versus Freed or Martin versus Cross. Ooh, good one there. Jeremy Lanthorn, also a patron. I always enjoy seeing the D2, D3, NAIA guys, etc. get a chance at a top D1 guy. Like when Brock Gutchis wrestled Robert Kokesh and spit it out, Bryant the Palestra, Philadelphia. Jeez, can't even speak right. I'm just getting amped up for Disney. Who's the leader of the club that's made for you and me? MICKEY. Yeah, this is not the Mickey Mouse Club. Taylor Miller did throw out that she was a fan of Zahid Valencia Mark Hall in the 2017-2018 event. Mike Bakiso, I'm going to include your comment in here because you mentioned an awesome Dapper Dan match between Ty Moore and TJ Jaworski in 1990. First period pin, 2 4-timers. Now, we were talking about the NWCA All-Star Classic, not the Dapper Dan Wrestling Classic. So, but you get a Ty Moore TJ Jaworski reference, why not? Now, I only started attending the All-Star Classic in 2006, and I've watched most of them since, and here are some of the things that have stood out to me over the years. I also want to say the dates that I'm referring to in this case are the season itself. So in 2006, that event was actually in 2005. So when you hear me specify the year, that means for the season that it was. Okay, you confused yet? Good. The first one was in 2006 in Stillwater, and I mean, it was the fall of 2005 or 2006. We had 4 NCAA champions lose on the same night. Tion Ware, Zach Esposito, Johnny Hendricks, and Steve Mocco all lost. The most surprising was probably Minnesota's Matt Nagel over Hendricks in sudden victory, or Cole Conrad beating Mocco. Conrad would beat Mocco 2 more times that season, including by fall at the National Duels, which was absolutely bananas. It was also the first time I'd watched Tervel Delagnev compete. He was on the undercard and beat Josh Leading Fox of Central Oklahoma. It would be Tervel's first of 3 appearances for the Lopers of Nebraska Kearney. In 2007, I was working for the NWC full-time, and we took the event to Dallas. Northwestern's Ryan Lang beat Oklahoma State's Nathan Morgan late. I think it was one where John Rizzuto's like, well, Nathan Morgan can pop the champagne, and Lang hit a late takedown, and yeah, that really, little slowness there on that broadcast. Haven't said John Rizzuto's name in a long time. Jake Herbert majored Roger Kish, and Harvard's Bode Ugunwole wrestled Spencer Nadolski of North Carolina in quite possibly the most boring heavyweight match of all time. Sorry, guys. That one put me to sleep. Afterwards, I said we should have put Delagnev in his opponent Wartburg's Blake Gillis in the main event at heavyweight. Yeah, that was a good match. They scored some points. Bode and no pecs, no sex, Mr. Nadolski. Yes, it's not an inside joke. That's kind of what he went by for a while. He's Dr. Nadolski now, yeah. Oh, it's just so bad. Sorry, guys. It is what it is. In 2008, we were up in Oregon trying to save the program. Pat Kilkenny, you suck. Roger Kish and Jake Varner got into a nice little shoving match right in front of me. It actually made the cover of Amateur Wrestling News. First time I'd ever made the cover, and I was in the background as Jake Varner and Roger Kish were like face smushing each other, standing up, and it was just, they were chippy. Mike Poet of Illinois caught Craig Henning in a neutral fall or defensive fall, whatever you want to call it. Hofstra went 2 for 2 at 133 and 141 with Lou Ruggiero and Charles Griffin picking up wins. Hey, Tervel again beat Cal State Fullerton All-American Wade Sauer. In 2009, it was pretty cool for me that James Nicholson of ODU was in the event, becoming the first Monarch to wrestle since 1970 when Dan Gable pinned Wayne Bright. Brent Metcalf of Iowa teched NC State's Darian Caldwell. Nick Marable and Mac Lunas wrestled one of their most thrilling... Just kidding. These two should never be allowed to wrestle one another again. They should have never been allowed to wrestle each other at all, period. We should fire up the DeLorean, remove all traces of these two ever competing against one another. I like both guys, but man, when they wrestle each other, Sherwin-Williams and Miracle Grow are like, dude, come on. Can we just go to the coin toss now? Anyway, 2010, we were out at Cal State Fullerton trying to save that program. Matt Montero of CSU Bakersfield upset Iowa State's David Zabriskie. Binghamton and Bucknell both had guys in the event. Andy Rendos and Josh Patterson, to be specific. That was cool. Jordan Burroughs sighting. He beat Bloomsburg's Matt Moley. In 2011, I thought Anthony Robles of Arizona State was going to win that season. His dismantling of Zach Sanders via technical fall cemented that thought. This one was personally interesting. I was doing the sideline television for Fox College Sports, and it had been about 7 years since I'd done any real significant television, especially in the sideline role. I was interviewing the winners. It's long gone since, so I'm going to have to tell you a quick story. And yes, Adam Hall, I'm about to throw you under the bus here. Bubba Jenkins had transferred to Arizona State and was scheduled to face Adam Hall of Boise State. A week or two prior, Bubba had just come off a loss to Tyler Chang of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. In case you've never heard of this, it's an NAIA program in Prescott, Arizona. Pretty smart kids, pretty good school. Casey Rock's now their wrestling coach. So, yeah, Bubba loses to an NAIA guy, and now he's got to wrestle Adam Hall in the All-Star Classic. So we're at 133. I'm standing there with a microphone. I'm worried about the cold sore I have on my lip. Thankfully, Tammy Tedesco gave me some cover-up, so I didn't have like this giant, nice little herp sitting there on TV. Well, 133, that's way too much information, regardless. We're at 133, and Adam Hall walks up to me and goes, "Hey, Jason, can we just do this interview now?" And then Bubba majors him. Yeah. Sorry, Adam. I sometimes you got to tell that story. Keeps you honest. 2012 was out in Arizona, and that was a cluster. Jordan Oliver and BJ Futrell probably had the best match. Wartburg's Byron Tate represented D3 in the event, and unfortunately for him, was quickly decked by Chris Honeycutt of Edinburgh. 2013, Dave Taylor. Next topic. 2014, real good, even if it was at George Mason. Yes, Fairfax State Community College, as I say. No, Frank, I'm not giving you crap. You got wrestling, so I will say George Mason, and we're in a wrestling context. But any other time, you are Fairfax State Community College. So suck on that, Brian Hazard, also an alum. What do we got at George Mason? We've got Devin Carter and Tony Ramos. All right. We got Logan Stieber and Kendrick Maple. Stieber and Maple returning NCAA champs facing off. Love it. Stieber one of the tiebreakers. 6 of those matches went to overtime, and it was the only time I've ever applauded George Mason's pep band. It wasn't basketball, so I was allowed to. 2015. Okay, Scott Schiller beat Jaden Cox. How does no one remember this? 2016, we're in Atlanta, had 3-point takedowns, 4-point near falls, a wild Brewer-Heil match that ended 13-12 for Brewer. Ty Walls gave Virginia Tech one of 2 wins by beating Adam Kuhn. Oh my goodness. Yeah. On a roll. So, and as far as the last 3 years, it's a little too fresh to really put a historical spin on it. Be like, oh, remember that great match 2 years ago? Well, let's do some history. So, that is your history lesson on the 1967 NWCA All-Star Classic, a.k.a. the East-West All-Star Classic. Some of my favorite matches, some of your favorite matches. The question of the week, and this will come back after Disney. Who was the first college wrestler you became a fan of and why? Hit me on Twitter. You can join the Mad Talk Online Facebook group by searching Mad Talk Online. It is a closed group. You have to request it. Want to keep the riffraff out. Don't want any of those chowderheads from those other wrestling groups that think they're all important coming around. No, it's just for us at the Mad Talk Podcast Network and listeners and former guests. You throw some stuff out there, patrons of the network. You want to have some good wrestling discussion? Yep. Hey, you can be part of that. Who was the first college wrestler you became a fan of? Hit me up on Twitter at Jason M. Bryant. My DMs are open on the Mad Talk Online Facebook group. wherever you can contact me, drop me an email, jason@BryantWrestling. But Twitter, probably the best way to do it because I'm going to post this up there and let it hang for a while. So, wish me luck on Disney. I'd like to thank you for spending your time with me. Wait. Stop. If you like the show, subscribe. If you like the network, go to mattalkonline.com/contribute and either join the team with a small monthly contribution, or you can just hit us up with a one-time donation via PayPal. I'll thank you. You'll get a public shout-out. If you're on a monthly situation, you'll get some shirts, some draft glasses. Dude, my pint glasses are not pint glasses. They're 20 ounces. You can pour that whole tall boy in there and with the head. Come on. It's beautiful. mattalkonline.com/join the team. Quickest way to do that. So, now I can sign off and say I'd like to thank you for spending your time with me. You've always got time for short time. And congratulations, Tommy Baranovsky. Remy Graham Baranovsky. Yep, it's a boy. That's like the weakest congratulations ever, but hey, I mentioned it on the show. There you go. Now goodbye. The Short Time Wrestling Podcast is proudly outfitted by Compound Clothing. Shirts, singlets, custom gear orders, everything you need. Call up Cliff and the crew at cmpteamwear.com. Hey, you know what? Did you like the show? You want to hit that subscribe button? mattalkonline.com/listen. Various different ways to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcatcher of choice. And if you're already subscribed, you already listened, and you love the show, and you want to support this show and this network, mattalkonline.com/join the team. Become a team member today.